What's up, guys, and welcome to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show. I'm just on cloud nine after coming from the Fantasy Football Expo, being able to road trip with JJ. But we got a fun show. We got a really fun show. It's an interactive show. We get down and nerdy. We got today's data as far as like what are we doing with projected touchdowns versus last season's touchdowns per game. We got some news. We got to talk about Sam LaPorta in the news section, and then also we got some deep sleepers, and one that is fantasy relevant, and that is relevant for something that we'll talk about. Stick around. It's a late round fantasy football show sponsored by DraftKings. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the show. JJ, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling okay. My wife has COVID right now, so that's not fun. You got to meet her last week, so hopefully you don't get COVID from your interaction.
Yeah, I got to meet all the family last week.
You did. There's two stories we need to tell. The first one is
the magic trick.
Yeah, the first one's the magic trick. Okay, so kitchen. We were in my kitchen. We were all hanging out, my family. So my wife, my daughter, my son, and Kitchen was there as well. And he did a magic trick where he made a salt shaker disappear. And while doing that, he was holding it with another hand, whatever. You don't need to, we magicians don't reveal the magic, right?
Yeah.
But it was behind your back. And I realized that. So I walked around and I grabbed it from him. And my daughter's like, where'd it go? And then I put it up in where the salt shaker goes, and Kitchen saw me do that. So he goes, hey, Avery, why don't you go look in that cabinet over there? And she jumped up there. I had never seen, I mean, it was like watching someone see like David Blaine, for the first time, and watching
her face was like,
yeah. Like, and her reaction wasn't just shock. She literally sprinted away. Do you remember? Like she ran away from the situation because she was so shocked that, you were able to make it disappear. The other story we have to tell is the Harold Fannon story.
It was classic.
It's a classic story. It's a classic story. Yeah.
Let me start.
You start, and then I'll
because there's this big open area at the Fantasy Football Expo where we were in Canton, and it just so happened that the Browns were also playing on Friday night, and so it was a fun time. We were having a fun time, and I go over to this like little Browns party there, and I almost feel bad for them because like it's this Browns party and then hundreds of like fantasy football nerds, and myself included. And I'm like, guys, I appreciate you being here. I'm a Titans fan, you're a Browns fan. And I said, but at least you have at least most Browns fans have Ohio State. And this guy was like, well, not her. She's I'm like, well, what college you cheer for? She's like, Bowling Green. I'm like, oh, cool. And the guy was like, yeah, her son used to play there, and now he plays for the Browns. And I immediately went, Harold? Like, I didn't even say Harold Fannon Jr. Harold. And so then
literally the only Bowling Green, although they had Omar Jacobs back in the day, the quarterback. But yeah, I mean, it's like the only Bowling Green guy that we know.
And I was like, JJ, and you come over there, and then I'll let you take it from here.
So I was talking to like either Justin Boone or Barons or something like that. And I walk over to where Kitchen was, and it was you. I think Hutchinson Brown was standing there as well. And you guys were kind of like pumping me up like, oh, this guy's got a prospect model. Like he can talk to you about, Harold Fannon. But my first reaction was, I was a handful of White Claws in at that point. I wasn't like, hammered. I'm not going to get hammered. That's insane. But I was feeling a little loose, and I got a read on the situation. Okay. To be clear, this wasn't me just going in completely cold and not, you get a vibe for how things are going. They seem to be in a good mood, all that kind of stuff. And the first thing I say to Harold Fannon's mom was, oh, do you walk like a duck too? And I realized right after I said that, I like look up and like, you guys were like, oh my God. But then she goes, she started, not only did she start waddling like a duck, you remember she put her feet out and she started walking around.
I didn't even hear what you said. I just knew you said something about a duck. And then I see you and her like have your feet out like this, and I'm like, what just happened?
And she goes, but her response was, who do you think taught him how to walk like that? Now when he's going up against defenders, they don't know which way he's going, which was just like chef's kiss, perfect response. It was awesome. It was a really fun experience and interaction. And then I talked to his cousin and his mom for like 10 minutes about how Kevin Stefanski needs to use a lot more 12 personnel and use Harold Fannon sort of out of the slot. But like, I don't know, man, like that's like the one thing that everyone knew about Fannon, especially in the fantasy space, especially people who are prospecting him, is that he runs with his feet out. Like he's duck-footed, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why people have speculated that he ran a slower 40 time is because of the way that he runs. But it was funny to get the validation from his mom with all of that. They were a great family, man. They were awesome. It was so much fun talking to them.
The whole not knowing where he's gonna go thing as far as the duck feet is just classic.
Perfect
on those routes. But it was a fun time. I shared this on the Swolecast, but I want to give a shout out to Jamie. You got stickers, I got some stickers.
Yeah.
You just meet some cool people there. This guy was an artist, so we're gonna do something with him. I'm not sure. I want to get
We'll figure it out. Jamie was awesome. And not only that, but it's nice whenever you're meeting people who are producing content and you just see how genuinely great they are as people.
Yeah.
And you want to just be able to back whatever they're doing because they're great people. Jamie was one of those people.
Yeah, I mean, he was all, and I enjoy like when you have like a new way of like content or different skills, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So it was a fun time. Anything else? Like we had a road trip. That was good.
We did have the road trip. Yeah. I feel like it was a standard road trip. We listened to a variety of different kinds of music. We had some good conversation. We got to go through multiple states. It was a good time. It was fun.
I mean, I can't complain. I just want to say like, it was good for me to be back in the saddle as far as like redraft. Those that know me kind of like I've been a person who is in the daily fantasy world.
Right.
And so to kind of be back in the redraft and
it's a friendlier environment.
Yeah, so there's no
the season-long community. I'm telling you guys, the season-long community and the analysts in the season-long community are some of the best people on planet Earth. I love going there and just seeing friends and hanging out and meeting new people. Everyone's so friendly, so nice. Everyone should check it out next season. And next year, the Expo's in July, so it might be even easier for some people to get to.
Yeah, for sure. It was fun. We should have more people. I also want to give a shout out to B-Rad, our guy that was with us.
The Fan Classic. He was the patron from Late Round Fantasy Football. Bradley. He joined us and he hung out with us all weekend, and that was great too. You know, just being able to spread the late round fantasy football word. Although, to be fair, B-Rad is a patron of other sites, as we learned while being there. So he was kind of cheating on us a little bit.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Shout out to the patrons there. You can go to lateround.com to get yourself a Patreon membership. We also have the Late Round Fantasy Football Draft Guide, which is going to have some major updates.
Huge updates last week. There's going to be just as many this week. There's a lot going on right now, man. And there's a lot of teams that are kind of playing it close to the vest, close to the chest. I think both of those phrases work, right?
Close to the vest is what I say.
Yeah. I mean, either way, isn't it the same kind of idea?
Sure.
Right. I mean, I'm really bad with like idioms and stuff. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that.
Yeah, well, I always say like sometimes out of the gate, and like I will mix like horse racing with like boxing.
Yeah.
Coming out.
But when people know what you're communicating, I just have to watch my every word because there will be someone out there that is ready to pounce and tell me I'm an idiot.
Yeah. All right, and there has been so much that has like happened over like as far as news go. Like if you think about it, we were watching preseason games after we did the show last week.
That's right.
So we're going to get to that in a second. Shout out to DraftKings, though, our sponsor. You got the draft one, get one. You go to DraftKings, and we'll put a link in the description. There should be one already. You can click that, or you can go to DraftKings if you are not a member or not a DraftKings user, enter promo code late round there to get that draft one, get one. And next week is best ball week. So lots of tickets there. JJ, you're doing the streams. I've been jumping on a few streams as well. Those have been fun. And your past two teams, before we get to the news, your past two teams have been fire. I just want to say it. They've been so good.
Yeah, the last two have been really, really nice. But then there's been others that I haven't been live streaming that I'm like,
others, yeah,
they're not getting as much ADP value. But yeah, if you want to see some good builds, look at the last two live streams that I've done. I don't think yours was horrible, was it? The last one you did?
Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't one of my best. Yes, I was the opposite of you. I started off like strong with like my nicest one first.
Yeah.
Your nicest one has been last.
Yeah.
Also, I'm judging off of the fact that those were similar builds that we had. All right. You ready to get to today's news?
Today's news.
All right. Not a fan of the ham. We've got some, well, I should ask, you know what this is in reference to?
I have no idea what this is in reference to.
Hamstrings.
Oh my God. Okay. All right.
We just have some nagging hamstrings out, injuries out there. We got AJ Brown nursing one. We got Jefferson nursing one. And it's just like, it's guys that have like top 2 round draft capital. Your thing is stretch more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not letting it. So here's the thing. Like Justin Jefferson was already in a tier with CeeDee Lamb, and whomever, at the top of drafts. And so I think that it's fine as a tiebreaker in those situations. And then you get like, someone like, and I'm not saying that this is what you're referring to, but like anytime there's these situations where they're just kind of unclear, like the Stafford thing in LA, it's fine to just push those guys back in, towards the end of their tier as opposed to the top of their tier. That's kind of how I'm approaching this, unless there's someone that's very obviously, not going to be playing to start the season. But, a veteran where this is happening to, if, they're likely going to be overly cautious with guys like AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson.
Okay. Let's go to LaPorta Potty.
I didn't see this actually, so I'm curious what's going on.
Yeah, this is you've been on dad duty for the past hour, so this is really recent. Basically, they said he'll miss a little bit of time. We don't know what that context is, but
what's the injury?
The issue is not major. I think it's an ankle. Chat might be able to help me with that. Speaking of, real quick. Kitchen, that fiddle leaf in the background looks healthy. Let me know your treatment plans because I've killed three of them. The fiddle leaf tree is actually fake. The other ones are real. That's the tree. That's
actually shocking. So, by the way, Kitchen and I went around my neighborhood and he the whole time he's just sitting there pointing out, because I have a golf cart. So we drove around in the golf cart. I've never revealed the golf cart thing in public. It's a little embarrassing, but also not, because it's freaking awesome. So I have a golf cart. We were driving around and we're driving by all these houses. I live in a really, really big neighborhood. We're driving by all these houses and Kitchen's just like pointing out all these different shrubs. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. No idea. But he knows his shrubs. He knows his trees.
I'm an outside guy. We also share. I shared this on the Swolecast too. I asked the guys what their ideal lighting environment is. And because JJ, this is one of the things you learn, like when you are with someone in person, you're not just talking to them all the time, is that I got to see like JJ's office and him working in the office. And I thought maybe he was like closing the blinds for lighting, because I do that where I'm at. No, JJ just likes to work in the dark.
I work in the dark. You guys, the draft guide that you guys read was created in the dark. That's it.
Yeah, I work in the dark at night. That's all I'm saying. All right. Mapex says LaPorta injury is undisclosed currently.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been lower than the market on him. So I'm probably not going to move much. Still, I'll say still somewhat of an avoid for me. I know that others who are smart, like Sean Siegel, considers, so here we go. Dan didn't say what the LaPorta injury is, so I assume he ate his kneecap, because they are, as we know, the Detroit Lions eat kneecaps. But Sean Siegel seemed to, when I talked to him on perspectives, it sounded like he's sort of grouping LaPorta as part of that potential elite group. I'm just not quite there. He had some questionable peripherals last year. You could explain some of them away by, injury, but I think that there's a chance Jamison Williams takes a step forward this year. And if that's the case, that's going to dig into LaPorta and just make him more of a, like Silva and I talked about on the Avoid show, a small hit, big miss kind of player. And I actually talk about that in particular on tomorrow's mailbag episode. I give you guys another small hit, big miss type player and explain what all of that means and why it's very, very important to understand in fantasy football.
All right. This next one, I'm not sure if you saw either because it's in the past hour.
I did see this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is like, boy, this is up in the air. What Rice do you like? Do you like your early Rice or you like your late Rice? As far as Rashee Rice, his disciplinary meeting is happening during the season on September 30th, meaning he's probably going to play the first 4 games of the season. But then you're going to have some issues there as far as suspensions go after that. So this one is an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it pushes Rice down a little bit because at the beginning of the season, especially in best ball, I think this is especially true in best ball. I think that you can make the argument that it's not as big of a deal I say, let's just assume that he's missing 6 games. Okay. That means that I think their bye is week 10. I don't believe the bye week counts. It's games, right? So it wouldn't count towards that. So I think that he would return then, after this, like week 12 or something like that, if it were like a 6-game suspension. And so he would be back for like the fantasy playoffs and you get him for the first part of the season, which is, great. But also in that stretch, you're dealing with injuries now for your team. You're dealing with bye weeks for your team. That's a lot easier to overcome in best ball early on when you're not even having to pick which guy's going to slot in and give you production during those first X number of weeks that he would be suspended for. So I do think that he gets bumped down a little bit. The thing is, though, is that now the upside from a managed league perspective is that the beginning of the season is one of the most chaotic parts of the season for waiver wires, where we're learning more. Like, we're not as attached to ADP in week 3 or 4, which is when things start to flip. I think it was like Adam Hardstad before did a study to show that around week 4 is when we should stop paying attention to ADP in terms of how predictive the season's going to go, right? So like week 4 standings are more predictive than ADP, like at that point in time. And so what that means is that the first month of the season, it's chaotic because we're starting to learn who's going to be good, who's not going to be good, what these offenses look like. We're getting more and more information. And so we want as many, bench spots as we possibly can get during that period to be able to add and drop guys off the waiver wire. And if Rashee Rice is simply in your starting lineup and not someone on your bench, it's actually kind of a benefit. So I don't want to overreact too harshly from a season-long perspective. The biggest problem that we would run into here is if this is like an 8-game suspension. If this is a longer than anticipated suspension, then all of a sudden you're into the fantasy playoffs.
You have the bye week as well.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and not only that, we can't assume that September 30th hits and then we get the suspension immediately after that. What happens if he plays another game or 2 and then there's an 8-game suspension on top of that? And now he's not playing week 14, week 15, like that's a little bit scary to think about. So I think it does bump him down a little bit because there's a higher chance now that, he's out in a worse time for fantasy football.
Okay. Titans down. We were getting, I was drafting a lot of Pollard before, and then the steam started coming in about Tyjae Spears, the balanced workload. Then he goes out. The poor guy can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Now he's going to miss some time, going to miss probably the start of the season. Where are you at now as far as Pollard and Spears are being drafted?
Yeah, I should have pulled up my rankings because I've updated them for tomorrow's drop. I can tell you right now, Pollard moved up quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but a decent bit. He's at RB 22 now for me. So, I was more so in like maybe RB 26 range with him before this.
Yeah. Who's the RB 22 range?
So the running backs
like
right
Swift?
ahead of him, right? So the running backs right ahead of him are, like not in his tier. So I would not be grouping these guys with him. but it's the RJ Harvey, Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson type players. Like, I think that he would be the next that you would draft. Like, I'm taking Pollard right now over DeAndre Swift.
Jones.
Do what?
Aaron Jones.
Over Aaron Jones. Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco is actually the next running back that I have on my list. So after Pollard. So I think that this is a big deal because, obviously he gets off to a hotter start. Tajay Spears, I think, is talented, right? And he could really play a good fantasy role from the standpoint of like getting the right kind of looks in the offense, through the air and being heavily utilized there. Just can't stay healthy. And I think that it's just not a good sign starting a season like this. And we want to get off to a hot start. So, I think if you look at my rankings and if you've looked at them throughout the summer, I've pretty much been at market with Pollard for the most part. He did have some minor red flag with his yards per route run last year. He wasn't the most effective receiver. And I did think that Tajay Spears was going to dig into that workload more, but if he can't stay on the field, he can't stay on the field. And if he's not on the field, Tony Pollard is going to be probably a bell cow in that offense. Yeah.
Does that mean that you are staying away from Tajay in redraft then? I mean, if his ADP drops considerably?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, on Saturday at the in the Kings Classic, I took Spears right before this injury happened.
He was your RB2.
Yeah, because it was a hero RB team. To be fair though, I then took Javonte Williams, which was late for him in a 12-team or 14-team league.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of hate for it because right before I drafted him, I said, I'm going to vomit. But I'm taking Javonte Williams here. But then I also followed it up. I think that was the team that I got Dylan Sampson in, and he looks like he's been getting more, run with the ones, which is to be expected. And so, that's just what happens whenever you punt RB2. But yeah, it sucks from that perspective that I was going to rely on Spears to maybe be like a 12 point per game kind of player and play by matchup. But yeah, I mean, like I thought that he was an okay enough get. Now, not someone that I'm really like the injured running backs. It's just really hard for me to really back at this moment.
Yeah, I actually was looking at the draft board, and I told the guys I was with, I said, I think he's going to go either Spears or Sampson.
Yeah.
And you went Spears. Next round, I think, oh, you're going Sampson. You went Javonte.
But I read the room right.
And then the next round, you still got Sampson.
Right. You gotta just.
Am I blowing up your spot a little bit though, JJ? If I release the messages and I say what you told me about Javonte?
What was I saying about Javonte?
You said I low key kind of like him for this build.
Yeah, for that build, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I do think. Look, it's a 14-team league where you start one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, a tight end, and three flexes, and it's full PPR. And so I went really wide receiver heavy. People on Twitter were like, "What do you like? Does JJ not know that you need a second running back?" It's like, yeah. Did the people that I'm drafting with not know that you can start 6 wide receivers? Because that's my response to that. And do the people responding not know that I won this league last year? So eat it. But so I went with a wide receiver heavy. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to repeat. But I went with a wide receiver heavy approach, and you're just trying to get by early on when you have dart throw type, Dylan Sampson type running backs and other dart throw type running backs that I have on that roster. You're trying to get by early on, just getting 10 to 14 points in a week with that RB2 spot. When you have deep rosters, your wide receivers are the ones that are going to really lift that roster. And so I'm fine in that build. Going with someone like Javonte Williams, I mean, let's hope he makes the team. But, going with a guy like Javonte Williams, who I do think is going to start the season off as, not a bell cow per se, but probably see 12 to 15 touches a game.
The woke media doesn't want you to know that JJ drafted Rome Odunze.
People would be shocked if they saw my Odunze exposure in redraft.
Yeah. Well, JJ and I talked. We are going to do something for Patreon before the season, just going over some of the drafts that he's done and just walking through the process. And you know what, we might help you out with your drafts as well. That's why you need to become a Patreon member. All right, Bucs running back sitch, because this is the other thing that happened is Rachaad White is down. Now you've got kind of Tucker in the back, and then okay, you say Sean Tucker to the moon. Yeah. What about Bucky?
I mean, yeah, Bucky, sure. I actually do think that it's not a minor deal for Bucky because the receiving stuff, and he might be able to see a little bit more receiving work if Rachaad White is out. I've had, I just don't think that I can move him that much just based on where I already have him ranked. Like, I'm not going to put him above Chase Brown. I don't think I do already have him above Jonathan Taylor because of my fear of Taylor's receiving workload in that offense with Anthony Richardson. And so, I think it's good for Bucky. I just can't really move him that much in my rankings.
Yeah.
The person that this matters most for is Sean Tucker, who in limited time has been unbelievable. And he was also, people who like read the late round prospect guide when Sean Tucker came out, and even during the process, like the prospecting process and the draft process before the draft happened, Sean Tucker was an analytics darling, great production profile. He didn't get drafted because he had this heart condition and ended up going to Tampa Bay. And all he's done is show up whenever he gets an opportunity. I mean, it's a limited sample, but his peripherals were like unbelievable last year.
Yeah.
And so I'm very bullish on Sean Tucker. I think this could be the moment where, it might not happen, of course, but this could be the moment where he sort of even overtakes Rachaad White or just carves out a role himself. That's part of the problem why I also don't want to move Bucky up, is because I fear Sean Tucker more than I fear Rachaad White for Bucky Irving. And this is like that opportunity. It's similar to like in Jacksonville, where it's almost good if Tank Bigsby is the dude for them, because that means that Travis Etienne wasn't good enough. And to me, Travis Etienne is the bigger threat to Bashal Tutin than Tank Bigsby is, right? It's a very similar situation to that, where sometimes players just need to get out of the way for coaches and coaching staffs to really realize what they have.
Yeah, because that's what, when Rachaad White went down, I was thinking that was the concern for me with Bucky, as far as like the passing down work, that White might cut into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been drafting in best ball leagues like Bucky over Jonathan Taylor,
So Sean Tucker is the third best. I don't remember who the other two were, but like if you look at some of the biggest UDFA hits in the or prospect scores in the ZAP model, two of the top 5 are Sean Tucker and James Robinson. Remember James Robinson, who had that season with the Jags, and he just never was the same. It was either an ACL or an Achilles, but those were 2 of the 5 best UDFAs. I think Sean Tucker is the third best. So he just had a really, really complete profile. He just shouldn't have fallen in the draft.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. Bears not burdened. As far as Luther Burden, you got Ben Johnson now saying good thing. It's like up and down, up and down. It's the Burden roller coaster.
Yeah.
So where are you on Luther Burden right now?
Let's just be patient with it. I even saw a report today about Olamide Zaccheaus, and how
he's going to start possibly.
Yeah, he's going to start.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to run with it. You guys got to just remember that preseason stuff when you're talking about like a clear, like I don't think Olamide Zaccheaus is like that bad of a pro, but when you're talking about the potential upside of a Luther Burden type prospect, and you're talking about middle of August when Burden didn't start playing until early August, like what's the expectation in a new offense, new head coach, like, and not only that, but one of Burden's biggest issues as a prospect was some of the off the field concerns in terms of him just like being motivated. And you saw him take plays off last year and stuff like that. You're going to need a coach that he respects, number one, which seems like the case right now. Like Ben Johnson's handling this Bears situation in a way that I think the Bears needed, right? Where he's being a very like almost like a more traditional head coach in the way that he's talking to the media. He's not afraid to say negative things to the media about these players, talking about how they need to work on X, Y, Z. And it's refreshing. Like we need that. Right. And so I think that what they're doing with Luther Burden is they're throwing him in and they're saying, hey, you screwed up or you didn't screw up. We're going to talk to the media about it. You need to be better. And they're being open and honest about that. And a player like Burden, you're either, I mean, you played sports. You're going to have guys who either really, really react to that, right? Who are really, really going to double down and work even harder, or they'll go in the complete opposite direction. And everything so far seems like Burden's been going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I would just chill. I think he might be more of like a second half of the season player, but he's not someone that I'm avoiding in drafts.
Yeah. Stash him and then playoff, win your playoffs type of guy. A guy we've been drafting in best ball. Speaking of best ball, this guy's been dropping Najee Harris. He was, we've talked about him. Here's my question, though. When it comes to redraft, I feel like everyone in our circle, as far as like a best ball circle or even like the Discord community, anybody that's like paying for information, they know all about Najee Harris. Do your casual league mates know like the severity of this, when it comes to like redraft leagues as well?
I don't know. I mean, like my stance on this has been, and I said hard to see a path to relevancy. I had to,
He's back to it. He's back participating in drills. And in the NFL News and Rumors channel, someone posted a guy just running into a wall.
Oh my gosh! I do feel really bad for Najee. I hope
I will feel really bad if he ends up, losing his eye, like some might have said.
Might have said on my podcast feed. Yeah. So yeah, look, I think that the big thing here is that he might be able to play this season and maybe even earlier than what the market's dictating, like on DraftKings and stuff right now. My thing though is that this is giving Omarion Hampton a lot of runway. This is giving him a lot of opportunity to seize that backfield. And like the bottom line is I was fading Najee back in January. Like I did the players to sell episode, and he was one of those players. And I'm not victory lapping that because I did not predict Najee Harris to light a firework off into his eye, right? Like that was not part of the plan here, but he's just not that amazing of a running back. And there's no reason for me to think that if Omarion Hampton can't beat out Najee Harris to a very strong degree, unless the Chargers just really, really want this split backfield. If Omarion Hampton can't beat out year 5 or whatever Najee Harris to a pretty strong degree, that's a bigger problem with Omarion Hampton and the evaluation of Omarion Hampton. And my evaluation of Omarion Hampton is that he's a good running back. So I'm still going to draft Hampton. I still think he's like a low end RB1, high end RB2. And I'll continue to fade Najee as a result.
Mapex MVP says Bucs colors. Next news is Godwin. Okay, so it's Bucs and Niners colors because you got Aiyuk and Godwin that continue to slide. It looks like they'll probably start the season on the PUP list. And because of this, you've got Godwin sliding down. And you also have Emeka Egbuka, just him and Pearsall just screaming up the boards right now. Lots of steam.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about this on Becoming a Best Ball Bro. With my Egbuka exposure, I'm at maybe like 12 or 13% or something like that. Yeah. And I do think it's getting harder to draft him in best ball, Egbuka, only because he's rising so much. And he's now basically a part of, or getting close to a part of that like really awesome 5th round group that we love to target.
That right? Waddle, tier as far
Waddle's
as
usually the end of it. But I mean, I've been in plenty of drafts now where Egbuka is going ahead of Waddle, right? Where I'm not there yet. I'm not quite, and you guys know that I love Egbuka to the point where that was my re-roll for Roma Dunze, but we won't rehash that.
No.
You guys can listen to the May episode that I did on playing probability and thinking about fantasy football in the gray area. But I do think that the Godwin news is scarier. Like the Brandon Aiyuk stuff, we kind of have felt like it wasn't going to be a week 1 thing, but Godwin got a new contract this offseason. They talked about him being ready week 1. And then sort of after that happened, they go and they draft Emeka Egbuka, which was a great pick. I love Egbuka. Like, go read the prospect guide. He looks great in the model, and I loved him as a prospect. So I can't really like fault them for that. But I do think that had to have had some Godwin influence, the Egbuka pick, right? Like there had to have been something in there that was related to Godwin to some degree. And ever since then, there's not been any positive news about Godwin finding the field. And there's been like other surgeries and stuff that he's had to deal with, like minor ones and scopes and stuff like that. I don't know how all that works, but I think that there's more negative than positive surrounding Godwin. Again, it's another injured guy, like a Mixon, who I just can't draft right now. Like I've not bought the dip on Godwin in best ball. I'm having a hard time in a managed league going that direction because now Egbuka is going to step in and he's good and he's going to show up and show out. They're not going to have to rush Chris Godwin back necessarily. So I'm in on Egbuka. I still think Egbuka is going to be the easiest pick in home leagues. Just a very obvious go-to selection. But in best ball, where people are sharper and they've been doing this for a while and watching the ascension of Emeka Egbuka, I don't think he's like I think you can still draft him, but I don't think he's like a must draft like he was, a month or two ago.
All right. A reminder to like and subscribe and to leave a comment. Either be interactive with the show live or afterwards, as far as like what are some of the news items that you're kind of concerned about. Let's get on to today's data.
So I updated the touchdowns per game formula with both updated ADP. So here are the inputs. The inputs to this formula. This is me trying to project next season touchdowns per game. And it projects next season touchdowns per game way better than previous season touchdowns per game. So previous season touchdowns per game, I think the R squared year over year is like 12%, 13%. This is like 25%, this formula. So it's not perfect. And I think that we can look at it with I think it's going to be better when there's less movement on a team, like someone like Jacksonville, for instance, isn't going to get enough credit for getting rid of their coaching staff and getting Liam Cohen and stuff like that. So we can just manually bump them if we want. But I still think this is an interesting and important exercise to go through. The inputs of this formula are previous season touchdowns per game, offensive line rank, that's from PFF. That's an article they do every year. Quarterback average draft position. So the min quarterback ADP that we get from that team's quarterback. So like, obviously that's going to have a rushing influence. So like the Jets might look a little bit better than they should, but it does get signal. Previous season yards per team play, and then win total. So what they're projected at sports books. So right now, I've been saying all offseason San Francisco had the biggest uptick in last season touchdowns. If you scroll up a little bit, in last season touchdowns to this season touchdowns, with some of these updates, because Dak has increased his ADP and stuff like that. Dallas is now the number one team. I would predict their touchdowns per game to be even higher than that, because again, that's based on last season a little bit, where Dak only played half the year, but they have a big increase. The Rams also have a big increase. But Stafford is dealing with what he's dealing with. The 49ers are next. The Bears are next. And that doesn't even factor in that they got a new coaching staff. Then the Chargers after them. Then on the other side, you have a lot of teams that were really good last year, and they're still projected to be good this year. But this is what I always talk about with regression, right? Like a team like Detroit, who had 4 touchdowns per game last year, highly unlikely to have 4 touchdowns per game this year. Cincinnati's going to see a little bit of a decline. Baltimore, a little bit of a decline. Tampa Bay, a little bit of a decline. They're all still going to be good, but I do think it's important to recognize that regression, natural regression that we see.
Yeah. Also just goes to show you what a crazy year that Detroit had last year, because even a projected total of 3.27 is nice. Like Baltimore too.
That's still top 3, top 4 in the league.
Yeah. Okay. You ready to move on?
Yeah. Also Philadelphia is pretty interesting, where they were one of the teams that were above 3. They're at 3.2 for this year, largely because the offensive line is ranked first on PFF. Jalen Hurts has a really early ADP. Their win total is still really strong. Like it's going to be a good offense.
Yeah. If you're a fantasy owner, you're hoping that their defense is a little worse than it was last year.
Yeah.
Because we need some offense. We don't need fourth quarter knees, kneel downs and just milking the clock. All right. Let's get to today's deep sleepers. You got a criteria of pick 200 or later as far as Fantasy Pros ADP goes.
Yeah, and I obviously didn't include kickers and defenses here. I mean, they're included in the overall ADP technically, so some are ranked ahead of like the Mario Douglas and all these other guys. But I tried to get real deep sleepers that you're going to be able to get towards the end of your draft. So the first one, we'll go with the Mario Douglas. I have some notes here that you guys can see. It's an ascending offense. There seems to be some positive vibes out of New England with Drake May. He's going to play the slot in a Josh McDaniels offense. We've seen that be something that's lucrative from a fantasy perspective historically. There's not that much volume locked in that offense outside of Stephon Diggs. And even, I don't know if you saw the interview with him and Kay Adams that was yesterday, but like he was being weird about even playing week 1. Stephon Diggs was. I think he's going to play. But at least keep that in mind. There's even ambiguity with Diggs. DeMario Douglas is getting camp praise. He had a 1.7 yards per route run as a rookie, which is really strong. And then last year was only 1.4, but it was by far the best on the Patriots. He's never been below a 20%, or getting targeted on 20% of his routes per route run. So like, I think that he's a really solid bet. To me, he's more of an arbitrage type play, where if you're going to get sort of like a high volume slot in the middle rounds, you can just wait and just get probably a comparable player in Demario Douglas later.
Yeah, we thought Kyle Williams would be this guy, right? I mean,
Williams will be an outside perimeter guy. Like their 11 personnel package is going to look like Diggs, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams, but I think Williams is probably more second half of the season kind of player. And Demario Douglas is at least someone that, will be a high floor option. To me, he's going to be someone that like you probably don't need in a 10-team shallower league, but in a deeper league and even a 12-team league with decent bench sizes, I do think he's a pretty good get.
Okay, and it also just goes to just the love that we have for Drake May this season.
That's right.
Just you said inject it into your veins yesterday when you were
look, I think I'm going to add Demario Douglas as a late round dart throw this week in the draft guide, which means I just basically have everyone in the New England offense as a target. And that's how it goes.
What could go wrong?
Love Travion. Like, I think Kyle Williams is a good second half guy. I love Drake May. I love Stephon Diggs. And why not just add Demario Douglas to the mix?
Okay. The next one you have, I thought was interesting. Elijah Arroyo.
Yeah. So I think that the most likely outcome for Arroyo this year is that AJ Barner is seeing more work than him. And we might not even see Arroyo until like week 13 or something. Like see him consistently be a fantasy option.
Yeah.
With that being said, there's a chance that happens sooner rather than later. If you're in a deep league, I think you can draft him and just see how they use him and deploy him week 1. So I think that he could easily be the dude in like 2026, not 2025, largely due to like blocking and stuff and not being maybe as well-rounded and more of a receiving type. I just don't want to miss out on him potentially being like a pretty special and good tight end. Like if he would have tested and shown us good athleticism, he would have ranked probably higher than Terrence Ferguson in the Zap model. It's just that we didn't have any of that. And so that's why in the late round prospect guide this year, when I have those little blurbs, I just said above average everywhere for Elijah Arroyo, because he basically is. He's just a really, really solid prospect across the board. You look at him compared to AJ Barner. AJ Barner had a sub 1 yards per route run rate career-wise in college. That's a number that we rarely see good tight ends. I mean, we basically don't see tight end ones, like consistent tight end ones, have that poor production profile in college. But Arroyo is at 1.61. He's way more athletic. I think this is a relatively ambiguous situation. Ambiguous situation. There we go.
There you go.
For the pass catchers there. So yeah, I think Arroyo is a decent dart. We're talking deep sleepers here. I think he's fits that criteria.
Plus, we don't know what this new offense in Seattle is going to look like.
Right.
Like, he could be on the field with Barner.
Yeah, there might be a lot of 12. Yeah.
Yeah. So be anxious to see what happens there. Next one. I zoomed in, so now I have to. Okay, there you go. Speaking of.
Same team. Talk about that ambiguous pass catching situation. I'm not going to try to repeat how I said it last time. Tory Horton, man. I said this in the draft guide. I said this, if you look at the prospect guide, the only day 3 picks the 2 day 3 wide receivers that looked best in the Zap model were Alec Iamaner, who people still don't know how to say his name. We learned that over the weekend for sure. And Tory Horton. They were 2 guys who had really good age-adjusted production profiles. Tory Horton had 1 season in college where he had a 3.51 max season yards per team pass attempt, which is absurd. He's the only day 3 wide receiver in this class with a 10% career first downs per route run and a 50+ breakout score, which is based on yards per team pass attempt. And then the other thing too is that Horton was injured last year and he missed basically the whole season. So he looks a little bit worse in the model because the model's like, oh, he played another year of college, but didn't do anything to really impact his score because his production wasn't there. And so it doesn't like him as much. And the thing that's crazy is he went to the combine after this injury. I think it was a foot injury, but he went to the combine and he slayed the combine. Like he's a super athletic dude, despite the fact that people didn't even know if he was going to test. And then he not only tested, but he tested really well, which to me is sort of that like intangible, more subjective bump that you might give some of these guys who are just like freaks and work hard. Right. And I think we're already seeing that. He's already getting a ton of love out of Seattle in that camp. So I think Tory Horton's a great late round dart throw. I don't think that he like, could he be like this year's Puka Nacua? I don't think anyone's going to be Puka Nacua, but I do think that if there's a day 3 wide receiver that I would want to bet on being the best day 3 wide receiver, it's probably Tory Horton.
Yeah. And probably not being drafted in a ton of leagues. He's probably going to be available in like ESPN leagues, CBS leagues. What's the other major league sleeper? What's the other one, JJ?
It is Yahoo.
There you go.
Yeah. I say Yahoo on the mailbag tomorrow, and I made sure that I got it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was the best part was you saying Yahoo to the actual Yahoo guys at the Expo.
Yes, I was saying, but then it became a bit, and I just leaned into it a lot.
Yeah, and then you got me saying every time I said it, I'm like, am I saying it right, or am I saying it like JJ saying it? All right, next one. This one makes me nervous, but also kind of excited because of just drafting Roschon Johnson. I think he's still my most drafted player in best ball, and I've been actively avoiding him for like the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's falling in drafts, and their Coach Speak Index has tweeted about this. How there's been like 25 pressers with Ben Johnson, and not a single reporter has asked him about Roschon Johnson. Still, like
he's not even making the
it's bizarre. The whole situation is bizarre. But Kyle Monunga is getting a lot of love, and DeAndre Swift will get some love. Look, I mean, I think that you could also throw the dart at Kyle Monungai. I still prefer Roschon over Monungai because I think he was a better prospect. I think he's more athletic than Monungai is. We already got some reports that he's like the goal line guy. Roschon is in that, he could play even a pass catching role for them. So I think that Roschon gets first shot, which in a lot of leagues, like that would make me say, okay, let's draft Roschon, see if he can do something with this, but have Kyle Monungai ready for if and when Roschon Johnson's inefficient. And I'll do my best on 15 transactions to bring that up with Kyle Monungai, as the season moves forward. So if week 1, we see Roschon Johnson have kind of a mediocre stat line and, success rate's pretty low and blah, 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 then we could say, all right, well, let's get Kyle Monungai's stash now. Cause Monungai's not going to get drafted in a lot of leagues. And so let's get Kyle Monungai stashed now because we know that he can maybe take over that early down role. It should be a good offense to invest in hypothetically. So I'm still going to throw darts at the backfield.
Okay. Trey says, do you consider these deep sleepers to be mainly late round dart throws or guys to look out for on early season waivers?
I think it's both. We're actually going to do an early season waiver show later this month. So it's going to be more of like I'm going to look at Yahoo and their waiver wire numbers so that we can actually be a little bit more precise with who you should be adding.
Yeah.
But right now, this is sort of a mix of guys that you can throw that dart at late in drafts this year.
Okay. Shout out Trey. I had a good meeting with him yesterday. That's the college guy I met with. So next one is a guy that is no stranger to the show, no stranger to the late round Discord. He is the thumbnail. He's the guy on the thumbnail. The reason I'm saying this is because he is now fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
And the issue is with this is that now almost 3 months ago, a very prominent figure in our Discord, who's now in the chat, says, no, this guy redacted fantasy takes. He says, okay, if Jacory Croskey-Merritt becomes fantasy relevant, I will steal the Declaration of Independence, which is just one of my favorite bits. We've talked about it a few times.
It's
one of my favorite bits.
It's a great bit. We even told people at the Expo about it this past weekend. Yeah, I mean, like, it's probably not the smartest thing to say something like that when Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are the other running backs in that backfield. Like, it's not going to be that hard for him to be fantasy relevant. He had some really good, like I said, and I wrote about this in the draft guide because I did add JCM as a late round dart throw last week. But he actually had some, I'm looking at the guide right now. He had some interesting sort of back end peripheral type numbers in college. Among the backs selected after pick 99, just 7 of them scored 12 or more PPR points per game as rookies. So like we're not looking at a player who likely is going to hit at a crazy rate, but he had really good yards after contact per attempt numbers. Some of those numbers that aren't part of the Zap model. And look, man, at the end of the day, he is the most athletic wide receiver running back on this team by far, in my opinion. I mean, Osneckler, I think, is still going to play the receiving role. I talked about that with Silva on the Players to Avoid podcast, where I think a lot of people are just assuming that like Croskey-Merritt is more of like a scat back type. No, I think Croskey-Merritt can dig into Brian Robinson's role, which is a big problem for B-Rob, and just another reason why I think he's a fade. And he could just be better. Early down production is relatively replaceable. They might want a faster, more athletic player back there. So I think that he is someone that we should be looking at this point.
Yeah. Someone even in the news channel, I guess Ben Standig, who used to cover the Commanders for the Athletic, he even, like, his hot take was that the Commanders would trade Brian Robinson because of how good Jacory Croskey-Merritt has been. Can you imagine if that does happen?
But here's the thing. Like, I think all this points to why is Brian Robinson still being drafted where he's being drafted?
Yeah.
Like why are people like, I was in a draft yesterday and he's going in like the middle of the 7th round on DraftKings where
in 80s. Yeah.
Full PPR and like, why? Like if the only outcome is he could score 15 touchdowns, that's one of the worst logical reasons to draft a player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it can happen, sure. But there's just a lot that can go south for Brian Robinson.
All right. Our last one.
No,
Woody Marks.
We got more after Woody.
Oh, we do? I thought that was the last one.
Yeah, we got 2 more after Woody. One of them you just exposed to folks.
You didn't see anything. All right, let's get to Woody Marks. I thought for whatever reason.
I mean, look, we haven't heard like anything on Joe Mixon, and it's the middle of August right now. I don't think that we can be drafting Joe Mixon. And if you look at who else is there, it's Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, last year had by far his worst rate of gaining 10 or more yards in his career. I mean, it was one of the worst in the league, if not the worst. I can't remember. But he saw a major dip in his efficiency and his effectiveness. And, he's older. He's coming off that injury. Maybe you can make the argument that he's another year removed, so he's going to be more explosive. But all the reports out of Houston are like, it's the same way that they're talking about like Javonte Williams out of Dallas, where they're like, yeah, he's this past week with Javonte Williams, they said that he has experience and wisdom. They said, like, if you're talking about a player on your team having wisdom as a like reason why
that's the skill set. That's like what he brings to the table.
Right. That's not good. That's not good. Right. And Nick Chubb is in that wisdom bucket right now. I didn't love Woody Marks as a prospect necessarily, but he had really good receiving marks because he played with Mike Leach. Part of the reason he played with Mike Leach was part of the reason he had those numbers is because he played with Mike Leach. Rest in peace. Pour some out for Mike Leach. But then, Woody did go to USC and still perform pretty well as a receiver. 78.7 breakout score is actually pretty strong. 16.1% reception share. My fear is that he's not explosive enough and he's not good enough on the ground. But hypothetically, Nick Chubb and Woody Marks as a duo, as a tandem, they balance each other out well, right? Because Nick Chubb is not going to be much of a pass catcher, but that offensive line is really bad. And so I question Chubb's ability behind that offensive line. And I think Woody Marks would be more of the beneficiary because he can catch passes out of the backfield. So let's just go with the ambiguity here. I think Woody Marks should be drafted in every league right now. He's also probably going to be a late round dart throw for me this week.
Wow, you're giving away the secret sauce. There you go. I was just going to say my only beef with this, you can give away stuff. My only beef is that you put top comp. We don't have to shorten competition to comp, do we? Because we use comp.
Where did I say comp?
Right here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce are his top comp.
Yeah, but when I see that,
oh, you think the comparisons?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Top competition is what I should say.
Here,
I'll do it.
No, competition. Put competition.
All right, competition. Okay, I'll put competition.
That's the only thing. Because I was like, well, his comp is these 2 other guys on that roster. I guess it makes sense.
Top competition.
Okay. All right. we do have more.
We don't really need to spend a lot of time on the last one because we already did. But Jalen Coker, look, go back and look at the prospect guide, the year 2 scores. Jalen Coker, his top comps were Jacoby Myers and Allen Hurns in the year 2 model. Those are journey comparables. So it's looking at how they were as they entered the league in terms of ZAP score and then where they are in year 2 based on their rookie season. Both those guys basically had 60 receptions as second-year players in the NFL. He's already showing up in the preseason and in camp. I just don't think, I don't remember exactly what I said in the prospect guide, but it was something along the lines of like, are we sure that Jalen Coker is worse than Xavier Legette? You know, and their year 2 scores were only like 2 or 3 points away from each other too. So I don't think that it's a lock that Xavier Legette is better than Jalen Coker. You know, I did move him down rankings in like July after being really bullish. Remember how bullish I was on him?
Well, that's what I was about to say is that I've got a ton of Jalen Coker on my DraftKings best ball drafts because you were so bullish. I also drafted him in some dynasty leagues because he was undrafted last year in some dynasty best ball leagues.
Yeah.
And some win now situations. So yeah, you were especially bullish, and then you kind of shied away
because beat reports were like, yeah, he's not a part, like, you know, there's all these other wide receivers that they, you know, and they're adding Hunter Renfrow. And if Hunter Renfrow makes the team, then Jalen Coker is not gonna be able to play the slot and blah, 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 blah. And so I was like, all right, I guess I have to cool down a little bit, but I wish I didn't because he's good.
Part of this also goes back to Bryce Young being a better pick this year, as far as like, he can't be much worse than what it was last year. He came on strong last year. He's got more receiving options. So yeah, like that. All right. Last one we've already talked about some, but it's Sean Tucker.
Yeah, man. I already talked about how he was one of the best UDFAs in the ZAP model. It's a small sample, but last year he had the best rushing yards over expected per rush on the Bucs. He had the best rate of gaining 10 and 20 yards in that backfield. He had the best success rate. Rachaad White's banged up. It's a good offense. I think Sean Tucker is very good. And I wouldn't look, if Rachaad White misses week 1, do not let Sean Tucker be on your waiver wire before that week 1 game, because there's a very real chance that he would be one of the top waiver ads the following week. Because he's a good player. So Sean Tucker is definitely worth a last round dart.
Would you rather take Quinshon Judkins or Rachaad White in a draft right now?
Rachaad White.
Okay.
I think Judkins is potentially just not going to play this year.
I'm on the clock right now in that stacked league.
Do you have to take either of them?
Huh?
You have to take one of them? Why do you have to take one of them?
Well, like the other ones are like Taj Brooks, Giddens, those guys.
I still think White is. I can't take Giddens or Judkins right now.
Yeah.
I have Judkins in one dynasty league, and it was the one league that I did the re-roll of Roma Dunze to Igbuka, but then traded up to get Judkins in that league. I could have just had Igbuka, but then I was like, no, I need a running back. I'm just gonna, I don't know. In the end, though, like with the Igbuka stuff, I'm very happy and satisfied with what the prospect model was saying, what the prospect guide said, the process that I went with drafted, because I have a lot of Igbuka in Dynasty, because I had him ranked at 108, which was higher than where he typically went. It's just a really good remembrance that these players that are in these muddied situations, we don't know if he's going to be good or not yet, but like we can't make assumptions about how health is going to go and how players are going to, and situations are going to unfold. Just follow the talent.
The number purple says we seeing a stacked league pick live, and I'll pick one live right now.
Where are you at?
Caleb Williams.
Is that who you picked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Because I didn't pick him yet, but I was just making sure that that you like.
Caleb.
Because it was a late round.
It's not my team.
Yeah, it's a late round draft, but it's a late round draft.
It's your team. It's your team.
It's my team, but it's a late round QB draft where I was the last one to draft a quarterback, and it was Drake May. So
yeah, May and Caleb is a good pairing.
Yeah, I think so too. When you're waiting that much, and the rest of the team is pretty solid. All right, let's get to the goodbye section. This is a QR code. If you scan it, it gets the buy one, get one. So if you're watching this on TV or on the computer, scan this QR code. You get the buy one, get one promotion. There you go. You scanning it?
Yep.
Okay. Make sure you're following us on all of our social channels, or even doing some TikToks, JJ. As the
TikTok
kids.
is,
Yeah.
dude. Honestly, though, like I'm a scroller of TikTok, and I consume TikTok regularly. I will go out there and say that the TikTok community, the people on TikTok, are better than any other social platform.
Wow.
Yeah. Better. Maybe YouTube's decent. Twitter's not. Twitter and even Blue Sky, it's just like I don't need to deal with this right now. But yeah,
you're saying YouTube is decent as people are watching this show right now on YouTube.
I mean, our community is great.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, people in general, as you like look and how they comment and like the positivity they bring and the fun, like people on TikTok, the comment section, I say all the time to myself, I'm like, man, I wish I could have come up with that comment because it is so freaking funny. You know, like there's so many people like that on TikTok. It's really good.
Okay, and the Reddit community also can be it can be hit or miss.
There's Trey saying we're decent.
Yeah, we're decent.
Yeah, look, I'm not doing TikTok dances, nothing like that. We're taking clips from the shows and all that. So follow it, Late Round FF on TikTok.
We get 100,000 followers on the Late Round TikTok. I'll do a dance on there.
Kitchen will do a lot more than a dance, probably.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but
all right. I feel like dance is the most you could do on TikTok.
No, you can do other things like eating challenges and stuff like that.
Wow, jeez. I think there's a fat joke in there
That's
somewhere.
No, all right. Well, we just do something crazy on there.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm getting back in shape.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, whatever you say doesn't stick to me. All right, so let's just wrap this up. Remember, like, subscribe. We got draft guides out. We got Patreon. Make sure you're signed up for the Patreon. We've got a lot of cool stuff happening there, and the newsletter, our email newsletter that's being sent out. We got another one coming tomorrow. JJ, what was yours earlier this week? Was it
the two veteran wide?
Oh yeah, the two veteran wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that was a solid one. So it's free to sign up. Doesn't cost you anything. JJ, any final thoughts?
No, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter and like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to grow this thing so that we can put more effort and money and stuff into it because we enjoy doing it. And I think that you guys generally do too.
Yeah. Hopefully. Deeb says David Pantry. So Deeb is he's kicked out.
Yeah, he's banned from the.
I mean, I'm okay with dad jokes. That's
pretty good.
Borderline. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, JJ. You're my number one. And
you're my number one.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate the community. Just the whole fantasy football community at large, and this community in particular. We're decent, and we're here. So catch us next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, sponsored by DraftKings. Peace.